Good morning, outdoor artist. It's a sunny morning, and as a result, you know where I am. I'm out in the woods near the quarry road, and behind me you see that the shed is continuing. Today's operation is going to be to replicate, or duplicate I should say, this side here. So this is half of this front wall that's completed. I've got both halves of the back wall already done. Those are standing by. So today I'll be replicating this one, and if time permits I may even start on this end wall, but I suspect I'll run out of either time or energy, and I'll film that along the way. Now before I get started, I just wanted to point out two things. One is a tool and one is a material. The tool that I've been using to cross-cut these 2x4s is this Ryobi saw. I'm not quite sure what model it is or anything else. I guess it's the 18 volt, and it's got this battery, lithium battery, which is part of the Ryobi One system. So that battery powers various things. I've got also have a drill that goes with it. I've got a few other tools that are powered by the same battery. The only reason I'm pointing this out is this is not a sponsorship by any stretch of the imagination. This is a very cheap tool, but I have to say the thing just runs. This battery, I've had this probably 7 years, and I've used it very regularly, and it just keeps on running. I do have also some other brands, but I just wanted to point out that pound for pound, I've got no problems with this Ryobi saw, even though it's probably the least expensive one you can get. And it's not one that you're going to be able to rip a lot of panels of plywood or anything like that with, but for the kind of work that I'm doing here, it's really perfect, very lightweight, and so I endorse it. Once again, it's not a paid endorsement, there's no sponsorship involved. The other thing I want to point out is I do have now shipped in 1/4-inch wire mesh, galvanized mesh, and we're going to put that as a varmint netting underneath to protect the underneath part of the shed from critters. We've got all kind of skunks and mice and stuff in this area, possums, raccoons, you name it. So we're going to put that around to keep them all out from underneath there and encourage them to go somewhere else. I tried to get this locally at my local hardware store, and they could only sell me, when I say locally I mean locally owned, they could only sell me small lengths, 15 foot, 16 foot, and then I wanted something like this, which is a 50-foot length. They would have to order it, and they weren't quite sure when they could get it. And since this stuff is coming out of China, I believe, they weren't even sure, if they could get it, given the current situation. So this is coming out of China, and they have a nice note saying thank you for using it and wishing me a happy life. So that's nice. That'll be going in a little bit later, but I wanted to keep you apprised of that. The other thing that's not here yet, I haven't purchased it yet, but we will be purchasing our earth anchors. With this high wind we had blowing off over these trees in the last video, you saw that. It strikes me that a gust of wind could move this, especially since it's on these tough blocks. It's not really anchored into the ground. So one of the things that'll happen before too long is I'm going to get an earth anchor, and there's a couple different styles you can use. I'll have to experiment and see which one works best for this particular site. On each corner it'll be anchored down. I did a rough calculation this morning on force of winds, and a gust of 60 miles an hour could put a ton of, basically I think the answer was 1,800 pounds of force on any side of this building, the broadside that is, that it hits. So that's a lot of force, and it could push the building, which is not good. So anyway, that's in the future, but I just thought I'd give you a heads up. And let's get going for the day, and hopefully the sun will continue to shine. This may be one of the few days for a long time when I might not even have to cover this up tonight, since there's not going to be any scheduled rain for tonight. Knock on Knock on wood. Here we go. Well, that's going to be it for today. I did not run out of time or energy. I ran out of materials a little bit short when I put these materials together. It was last October, and I underestimated a few things, so I've got a few more studs to get to complete this end wall, or start this end wall. One of the things I didn't take into consideration is I have to use extra studs to frame up for a window. And the reason I'm putting this window on the end instead of maybe on one of the sides is that my neighbor and I like to drive golf balls into the woods from our houses, and there's all kind of golf balls ricocheting around out here, so it'll be pretty well, the window will be pretty well protected over here and still admit some light. I should mention, by the way, since I didn't before, that the pitch of this roof is going to be 212, which basically means it's 2 units of rise for every 12 units of run. So the run would be left to right, and the rise would be obviously vertical. That's the minimum recommended in this area to get the snow effectively off of the roof and safely off the roof so it doesn't accumulate. So that's what I went with. The other thing I'll just mention is originally I was going to do 2x4s for the roof rafters. I've since changed my mind, and I'm going to go with 2x6s, since everything I see from other people working on sheds is 2x6 seems to be a better standard. So I'll go ahead and do that. Better safe than sorry there, and make sure it's good and sturdy. So with that, this is the Outdoor Artist.